Hey, this is Josh Boyd, MMA chaplain with Fight Church in Las Vegas. I'm so excited to be able to share with you a short message today called The Heart of a Finisher. And I just want to encourage you today to push on, to press on, to accomplish things. And in 2 Timothy 4:7, Paul shares something that is very encouraging. He says at the end of his life, at the end of his ministry, I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith. And I hope that we'll all be able to say that, not only with life, but with other goals in our life, you know, well, maybe relationships or a career as a fighter or whatever. It might be a reconciliation with a family member or something like that. Hopefully, when it's all said and done, we'll be able to say, hey, I fought the good fight. I finished the race. I kept the faith. I pushed on and did whatever it took to get the job done, and I did it. You see, being great and accomplishing things, it's hard. You're well aware that if you're involved in sports or music or anything else, or if it comes to being faithful as a believer, as being a Christian or whatever, or being faithful as a husband or a wife or a parent, it's hard work. A lot of times we just want to give up. We want to throw our hands up and say it's not worth it. This just isn't coming together. It's so easy to be a burned out loser, to not accomplish anything, to just throw things away and not accomplish your goals. But today I want to encourage you, and I want you to know that it's not the zeal of your start. It's not how exciting you are at the beginning, but it's the fight in your finish that is remembered and rewarded. Nobody cares who comes in 16th place in a race. The problem is that many of us have become quitters. Many Americans, especially, have just become quitters. We have a culture of quitting here. One thing specifically with pastors, with ministers like myself, is that only 1 in 10 pastors who are fresh out of college and begin full-time church ministry will still be doing that same thing, pastoring, at the age of 65 when they're ready to retire. 1 in 10. And the average American in their lifetime will make 10 job changes. And that's not that big of a deal in today's society with all the different entry-level jobs, and especially here in Vegas as a fighter, you do what you got to do. You might have 2 or 3 little part-time jobs. But here's the other thing. The average American will make 5 career changes. And I think that that's a lot bigger and a lot crazier. Also, 2,500 churches a year shut down. And this is one that's a little more well known. 1 in every 2 marriages ends in divorce. 1 out of every 2 marriages, they call it quits. Either both or on one side or another. They don't push on, they don't press on, they don't make things happen, they just throw the marriage away. 78% of Americans say that they take less pride in their work than they did 10 years ago. They're just giving up. And 38 million people resolve every year in January, to get in shape. And 28 million out of 38 million break that resolution in the very first week. It's crazy. The average resolution that people make, health related or not, only lasts 3 weeks. And so people just quit left and right. Every single week, 53,000 people leave the church never to return. A few years ago, the legendary leader, world leader, Winston Churchill, was going to speak before a graduating class. And there was a speaker right before him, and he did a good job, and you know, he expressed a lot of good thoughts and was very encouraging and inspirational for the graduates. But everyone really was just waiting for Winston Churchill to get up there and speak. And so when the speaker before him finished up and sat down, Winston Churchill slowly got out of his chair, he walked up to the podium, and everyone was just waiting in anticipation. What is this guy going to tell us? And this is what he said. 5-word speech. He said, never, never, never give up. And then he slowly turned, walked back to his seat, and he sat down. That was his speech. That's what he thought these graduates needed to hear. He thought that of all the wisdom he could have shared of being a world leader, that all they needed to know was they never, never, never should give up. And that's amazing, because it's sometimes the simplest little thing that can make all of the difference in our lives. I want to share with you 4 quick observations that have to do with the heart of a finisher. The first one is, the heart of a finisher is tempted to quit like anybody else, like any other. If you're a finisher, you're going to be tempted to quit. Being tempted to quit doesn't make you a quitter. Everyone is tempted. Even Jesus himself was tempted to quit his assignment and his mission. He endured shame and mockery. He persevered all kinds of persecution, but he didn't give up, and he didn't give in to flattery and all of the other things. Our enemies know that we will be blessed for our faithfulness. People around you, they know that if you finish, if you are able to do what you say you're going to do, it's going to be rewarding. And unfortunately, some people don't want you to succeed because they don't succeed. And that's sad, and we have to be careful that we surround ourselves with good people. At the end of Jesus' mission, his time here on earth, in John 19:30, he actually says, "It is finished." And those are amazing words, because it indicates that he had a goal. He had a reason to be here. He had something that he was trying to accomplish, and that he did. He took it to completion. He finished. And so another great example of why we should not quit, but we will be tempted to quit, the great actor Harrison Ford. You know him from Indiana Jones and Star Wars and all these great classic movies. This is a quote from him. He said, "Right from the beginning, I believed that staying the course was what counted. The sheer process of attrition would wear others down. Them that stuck it out was them that won." And that's some great advice. He knew that, hey, this is going to be hard. This is going to be rough. And if I can just stick to it, enough people around me are going to quit that I'm going to make it. And did he ever? The second thing I want to share is, the heart of a finisher sees past the present to the future. We need to be looking ahead, and we need to be setting goals. I don't know what your goals are for your life, for your faith, for your career, for your family, for your marriage, but I would encourage you, write those things down. Write down where you want to be in those areas in 1 year, and then in 2 years, and in 5 years, and in 10 years, and then work your way back to the present by setting smaller goals that are going to get you to those goals, and they're going to help you accomplish the things that you're trying to do. Galatians 6:9 says, "Let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart." So even though some of those things seem to be so far down the road, and you seem to be just chugging along and hitting bumps, and things might not always pan out the way you thought they were, or something takes longer than you thought it might, it says, if we do not lose heart, in due time, it's going to happen. Just know that. The great movie Gladiator, there's a few amazing quotes in that movie, but there's one that has popped up on different graphics and things on social media where Maximus says, "What you do in this life echoes in the next." And that is so true. The things that you do today affect your tomorrow. The things you do today and tomorrow affect next week. Next week affects next month, and so on and so forth. We need to be super careful that we're accomplishing the things today, because they're going to affect the things that we do later on. And we need to make sure that we're not quitting on the small things, because those are ultimately going to get us to the place where we're trying to get to. We cannot grow weary doing good things. We cannot grow weary doing the things that we need to do. There's a really interesting fun fact about kangaroos. I don't know if you've ever noticed the anatomy of a kangaroo, but they have that huge muscular tail on the back end. And so Kangaroos cannot walk backwards. They have to pivot on that tail and turn in the direction that they want to go to head in a different direction. They can't walk backwards. And as a result, the kangaroo appears on the Australian seal. And not just because that's where they come from, that's where they're indigenous to, but also because that's the heart and that's the type of people that Australia has and wants to continue to have, and that's why they became a nation, and that's the attitude that they want their people to have. Not moving backwards, but always pushing forward, always working to be better. 2 Corinthians 4:16 through 18 says this, "Therefore we do not lose heart, while we do not look at the things which are seen, but the things which are not seen." We need to keep focused. And we need to not just look at those obstacles and maybe those hard times where it seems like you're surrounded by wind and waves and you don't know that you're ever going to get out of there. We need to make sure that even though there might be a mountain in our way and our goals on the other side, we need to make sure that we focus on what we can't see at that moment. You know, I grew up in Indiana where if you climbed a tree, you could basically see the whole state because it was pretty flat. And now that I live out west, it's crazy because of all the mountains and all of the valleys. And so it's a whole new experience for me. And so even though from where I'm at right now, even if I was on top of the tallest building I could find, I couldn't see certain other things that I might be trying to get to, like Lake Mead or Red Rock Canyon. But I know it's there. So even though I can't see it, there's no reason why I shouldn't just keep pressing forward and working towards that. We don't need to ignore our problems, that's for sure. There's going to be times where we might need to alter our route a little bit or to make things happen, but we definitely can't let those things keep us from continuing on. The third thing is the heart of a finisher is filled with faithfulness. Faithfulness is just this lost thing, this virtue that not very many people have. We've talked a little bit about being a quitter, but it boils down to just pure faithfulness. Faithfulness as a friend, faithfulness as a spouse, faithfulness as a family member, and then faithfulness to your goals, to your aspirations, to your job, to the people that are around you. The ability to carry out commitment long after the mood has passed. And I know we've all experienced this with different things in our life. Marriage is a great example. You know, when you're dating, you love each other and you'll do anything for each other. Then when you first get married, it's called the honeymoon period. You know, even after you go on your literal honeymoon, you come back and, you know, for the first little while, it's just bliss. Well, that feeling is going to go away eventually. Eventually, you're going to roll over and your wife is going to be elbowing you or kneeing you because she hears the garbage truck and she knows you didn't get the cans down on time or something like that. You know, you're going to wake up next to your wife and you're going to roll over and you're going to see her with no makeup and she's got morning breath and you know, you don't feel like, hey, everything's okay. But the commitment's still there. The vows that you made are still there. And there's going to be, you know, days where it's the exact opposite. So remember that. Another example is when you get a new car. When you get a new car, man, oh, everything smells good and it looks good and everything's super tight and you know, you feel great about it and you have all these commitments. Then, you know, it starts to slip. You know, you don't eat in your car when you first get it, but then, you know, you kind of let it slide and you get that first coffee and you're like, oh, well, it's just coffee. There's a lid, no problem. And before you know it, you open the door and there's wrappers and bottles and all kinds of crazy stuff falling out of your car. But, you know, we got to be careful that when the mood changes, when the feelings go away, that the commitment stays and we continue to push on and press forward and work towards those goals and have the heart of a finisher. The fourth and final thing that I want to share with you about a heart of a finisher is that a heart of a finisher focuses on completion. And Hebrews 12:1-2 says, "Let us set aside every weight and the sin which is easily ensnares us, and let us run with endurance the race, and let it set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith." We need to make sure that if we have things that are holding us back, things that are holding us down, weighing us down, that we get rid of those things, because they're going to keep us from getting where we need to get. We need to make sure that we're prioritizing our life and our relationships, and we need to make sure that we're getting rid of time stealers so that we can devote. I know that many of us have very busy lives with careers and with education, with families, with a wife, with kids, all of this stuff. We need to make sure that we prioritize those things, that we slot time for each of those so that we can make the proper investments that we need to, and that we can focus on completion and getting the things done that we need to get done. And Henry Ford, a big industrialist here in the country, very famous, and also very known for his precise little nuggets of truth. Once he was asked, "How can I become a success?" And this is what Henry Ford said. He said, "If you start something, finish it." That's all he said. If you start something, finish it. And that's great advice. So many people are just quitting. Here's an example. A kamikaze pilot that's able to fly 50 missions is a very good starter, but a very lousy finisher. A diamond is a piece of coal that just hangs on. Napoleon Hill wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich, and he studied 500 of the most successful people in the world and found one common characteristic. They were all persistent. They kept going. They kept pushing. He found out also that the most successful people are oftentimes the ones that have gone bankrupt the most. Most people who are rich have gone bankrupt over and over and over. One specific example is Walt Disney of the Disney Empire. Walt Disney went bankrupt 7 different times, and he just kept pushing. And then obviously everyone knows Disney because he was persistent, because he focused on completion. One last story that I want to share with you took place on October 20th in 1968 at the Mexico City Olympics. And there was a runner named John Stevens from Tanzania, and he was in the marathon. He was in the long distance run, and 19 kilometers into the 42-kilometer race, he had a fall. And he was jockeying for position, and he fell down, and he injured his knee really bad, and he dislocated his shoulder. And so he was in a tremendous amount of pain, and there was paramedics there, and they tried to help him as much as possible. But then he said, "I gotta go." And he continued to run the race, and the paramedics were like, no, you can't go, you're really hurt. And he said, "I have to go." And so he ran, and so the paramedics hurried up, and they gathered up their things, and they followed him. And there was also other escorts, along the raceway. And he was going, but he was moving very slowly. Obviously, he's in very much pain, and so everyone's telling him, you're gonna lose. You're in last place. You're hurt. Just stop. Just quit. And he just kept going, and he kept going. And before you know it, word came from the front of the race that the winner had won the gold and the silver and then the bronze, and then everyone else in the race finished. And the sun went down, and they had the medal ceremony, and the stadium's getting dark, and people are leaving, and there's just a few people left in the stadium, and he's still running, and people are like, "Man, it is over." But he kept on pushing forward, and finally he gets into the stadium, and by that time word had gotten from the back of the race to the front of the race what was going on, and the crowd went crazy. They were like, "Here, this guy has no chance of winning. He's hurt." I saw a little bit of footage of this, and he's wrapped up in bandages. He's got bandages hanging off of him, and he just kept going. And when he gets there, he finally finishes the race. And a reporter says, "Man, are you crazy?" He's like, "Why in the world did you finish this race?" And this is what John Stevens said. He said, "My country of Tanzania, they didn't send me 5,000 miles to start a race. They sent me 5,000 miles to finish one." And that was his quote. I mean, this guy felt obligated to finish this race, and he did. One last thing I want to share with you from Scripture is found in 2 Corinthians 11. And basically, it's just a list of some sufferings and some horrible things that happened to the Apostle Paul. And this is the guy who we started off with when he said in 2 Timothy, "I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith." And we think, oh yeah, well, he was the Apostle Paul, good for him. But here's what he had to do. This is what he had to go through in order to do that. This is what it says. It says, "I have worked much harder, been in prison more frequently, been flogged more severely, and been exposed to death again and again. 5 times I received from the Jews 40 lashes minus 1. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was pelted with stones. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I spent a night and day in the open sea. I have been constantly on the move. I have been in danger from rivers, in danger from bandits, in danger from rivers, in danger from my own people, in danger from Gentiles, in danger in the city, in danger in the country, in danger at sea, in danger from false believers. I have labored and toiled and have often gone without sleep. I have known hunger and thirst and have often gone without food. I have been cold and naked. Besides everything else, I face daily the pressure of my concern for all the churches." My challenge for you is to have a heart of a finisher. And I hope that me and you and the people around you that you care about, I just pray and I hope that at the end of it all, we'll all be able to say, "I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith." I hope this encourages you. I hope that you'll take some of these things to heart and that you will strive to have the heart of a finisher. Thank you.